Hello and welcome to the More to Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace, and I am here, just me, myself and I today. I am just giving you a short episode, a mini episode on binge eating. So why do we binge eat and how can we stop binge eating? Binge eating is an emotional eating disorder, okay? So if you've got it or you've had it, you will know that it's not something you can just stop. It's not something that you can just be like, actually, I'm not going to binge today. It's so much more complex than that. It involves eating large amounts of food in a short period of time, or there's also the binge eating where you can eat large amounts of food over long periods of time. Binge eating can be triggered by the stress, anxiety, depression, or emotional issues, or it can be triggered by being around certain foods because you're already in kind of like dietary chaos from foods. People who binge eat often feel guilty and ashamed afterwards and want to do something potentially about it, but instead they just sit there and kind of just feel all the feelings, or actually normally don't feel the feelings, just feel really guilty and ashamed. The most common cause of binge eating is an underlying emotional issue that has not been adequately dealt with. So this is why when people who are binge eaters or overeaters or emotional eaters, they go and think, right, I'm just gonna I need to go on a diet. I need to go on a diet to get this fixed. That is not something that is going to help. Some people go to the gym and they get personal trainers to get them to write food diaries, and that's not going to get rid of your binge eating. Yes, getting nutritional support from the right people is going to benefit you and is going to support your journey out of it for sure, because it is really important to follow a food plan, not diet, when you're trying to come out of binge eating. But like I just said, the main reasons are emotional issues that are not yet dealt with. This is an emotional disease. People may turn to food as a coping mechanism for difficult emotions such as sadness, loneliness, anger, you name it, anything. When I was going through my binge eating, I remember that the feeling of being apprehensive used to send me off for a binge. I remember one time I was driving from London all the way down to Exeter. It was like a 3-4 hour drive, and there were supposed to be plans that night to go out, and the plans were changing, and I wasn't able to go on my phone and see what was happening. And I remember feeling really apprehensive driving home, thinking, are we going out? Are we not going out? And I noticed that I literally pulled into the garage and went into a binge because I just didn't know. And I had loads of little things like that, which I managed to identify. So binge eating can be caused by a lack of motivation of coping skills, basically, needed to deal with stress and difficult emotions. So if this is you, you're thinking, what is it that's going on for me, or what could be going on for me behind the scenes, but I just can't see it at the moment. I can't recognize it at the moment. It could be a conscious stress, or it could be an unconscious stress. And this, I'm talking about binge eating here, which is separate from overeating, but it's all got the similar things. If you're overeating, again, it's a lack of emotional resilience for something. So in order to stop binge eating, it's important to address the underlying emotional issues that are causing it. What is the cause here, and why is it staying kind of alive as such? Finding healthier ways to cope with difficult emotions and stresses will be really key. It may help to practice mindfulness, mindful eating, and mindfulness in general. So really taking note of what you're eating, when you're eating. Being mindful in general means that you'll be able to check into your feelings. How am I today? And then you can get ahead of yourself. If you're already feeling a bit wobbly, then I could be really prone to a binge here. So what can I do to protect myself? Focus on the physical sensations of hunger and fullness as well. Really check into your body. So am I hungry? No, yes. Am I full? Am I satisfied? That is so important. It is also helpful to work, of course, with professionals, with people who know what they're talking about, to address these underlying emotional issues and develop healthier coping skills, because ultimately you need to develop these skills in order to be able to move through emotions as you go through life. You've got to also have a self-compassion practice and be kind of gentle and understanding to yourself, because you haven't got binge eating. You're not suffering from binge eating because there's something wrong with you, or because, whatever reason. It's because of your lack of emotional resilience, which is really common. it's so common. Like, it's changing now, and people are doing mindfulness in schools, and like, you know, parents and carers have a lot more information about drawing out information from their children. But for many of us growing up, it was just kind of get up, get on with it. That was just what was normal. People didn't have the knowledge that actually emotions need to be processed. So whatever food chaos you are in, whether it's restriction, binging, emotional eating, bulimia, whatever it is, you've got to do the psychological work along with any sort of food, you know, food therapy. But when I started, my binge eating actually like came on overnight. Like, and so many clients I speak to, and this has happened for them as well. So one, you know, I was so restricted for X amount of time, and then I went through some kind of, you know, like a difficult experience. And binge eating seemed to be my only coping mechanism, even though it made me cope less. It sent me even more into chaos. So I kept thinking, right, I need to restrict more, which was just making it worse and worse and worse. Why can't I just find a plan that suits me, that can work with me? The more I tried to control it, the more out of control it became. And that is because actually what I had to work through was the difficult situation that had happened, the trauma that had happened to myself. Because what happened to that situation, it was a breakup. What happened there was difficult to move through in that moment. But what also happened was my history with similar thoughts and feelings also came back up. So for example, not necessarily this is about me, but I'm just giving an example in general. Let's say you go through a breakup and you're 30 years old, you've been with someone for 5 years. You'll go through that breakup and it'll be really difficult, but also you're going through similar thoughts and feelings of when your first partner broke your heart when you were 16, 17, 18, and you didn't really heal from that properly. So then that's coming back up as well. Then you went into low self-worth. So your instant reaction is to go into that again now. You know, it can trigger so many other feelings of unworthiness and abandonment, and they are all the things that contribute to binge eating. So you can set yourself some little tasks. I want you to think, okay, where could I support myself in my food plan? Where could I make differences? And if you're unsure, your biggest thing will be to remove yourself from restriction. If your goals are weight loss, it's not about, but I have to be in a restriction in order to weight loss. It doesn't work like that. You have to find a food plan that works well for your body. So eat like smaller portions and more often. Just don't skip meals. Don't be in too large a calorie deficit. Your body has to work. If you eat, you burn, you eat, you burn, you eat, you burn. And that is the most important thing. Restriction just leads to overeating. So look at that and then write a list. What are all the things that's happened to me or that I've experienced that I may not have really worked through? Because trust me, they are contributing to your disordered eating. They are keeping. Welcome to the More to Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace, and today I am joined by Joshua Coombs. Hi, Josh.
Hey, really lovely to be here. It's so nice to see you again. I
am so excited because we are connected. We're both friends with our friend, but also you are from our local town of Exeter, which is just so nice because it just feels super special when it's like quite a close town. We grew up with the same sort of people, went to schools like next to each other.
Oh my God, yeah, so many connections. I remember, I don't know, being at football games with your brother stood next to me like when I was younger, and yeah, we were in the same circle there or thereabouts. With like when it's Exeter is obviously a bigger city now, but it felt like definitely a lot smaller place when we grew up. So no, I'm super happy to speak to you, and I always hold Exeter really fondly in my heart, even though I travel a lot now when I go back because my family's still there, so it's always a place for me,
Yeah, it's funny you just said that about the big city, because as I was saying that, like, oh, we're from the same in a little city, I was thinking, well, it's definitely not little now, it's huge, and you don't feel like you know people now, but back 20, 15 years ago, you felt like you knew everyone in the city,
which had its benefits and also so sometimes there was some negatives to that there too, but you're right, it felt like a village then, but way different now,
I'm also so excited because your journey over the last few years has just like been phenomenal. You have a book out, which is incredible. So just tell us then a bit, because there could be people listening to be like, okay, so who are you? So what do you do? So just tell us a bit about yourself.
Of course, yeah. So, well, I guess it's good to start, thinking about external, like where I grew up, without going into like full life story. I'm someone who, came out of high school without any GCSEs, and I failed, college as well. And, that kind of led me to playing music for many years. I really felt like a great sense of failure when I was younger after leaving school. And I think now looking back, that wasn't an easy experience. I actually had kind of dyspraxia and ADHD when I was in school. I was diagnosed with, and there wasn't really the tools to help kind of with that sort of stuff in the same way as there maybe perhaps is in some, arenas now. And yeah, I just